Hello, I'm Amy Zawi with the Jerusalem Connection Red Alert Report for July 10. Shall we make some lists? What have Jews suffered from recently? I ask because now more than ever, Jews in Israel are continually targeted as the oppressors and causes to worldwide ills. So what has the media missed in its hype for social justice? On June 17th in the Algemeiner, it was reported that in Ann Arbor, Michigan, Dr. Mozhgan Savabieasfahani has spent the past 16 years picketing outside a synagogue in Ann Arbor on Shabbat, holding up signs, among other things, with swastikas and harassing Jewish children. And now she's running for public office as a progressive. Dr. Mozhgan is now running as for city council as a progressive. She's originally from Iran and is a professor at the University of Ann Arbor in the Environmental Studies Department. And she has long been a vocal advocate for BDS activities, in addition to her evenings of Shabbat holding offensive signage in front of synagogues. New data shows that Jews are the most targeted group for hate crimes in the Toronto area. Newly published police data showed that Jews were the most targeted group for hate crimes in the Greater Toronto area last year. In all, 44 out of the 139 hate-related incidents, or 32%, registered in the city of Toronto last year targeted Jews. In the neighboring York region, Jews were targeted in 40 out of the 133 total recorded incidents, so about 30%. The Times of Israel reported by Marcy Oster at the end of April that Ontario had the greatest increase, and Quebec as well, so the greatest increase in number of incidences, anti-Semitic incidences, for 2 years in a row. Quebec and Ontario are the homes to the largest communities of Jewish people in Canada. And the incidences in Canada are on the rise for the fourth consecutive year, including an onslaught of online harassments. The human rights organization B'nai B'rith Canada noted over 2,000 incidents in 2019 for anti-Semitic harassment online. And that's grown from the 2,041 from the previous year. Anti-Semitic incidents in Canada are rising for a record 4 years in a row, much of it online. And the largest number, 2,000, is up from 91% from the year before. Online harassment, I'm speaking of. In Brazil, reported by Knan Lipschitz in the Jewish Telegraph Agency on June 19th, a pastor is preaching from his pulpit, "Massacre the Jews. God, hit them with your sword, for they have left God and they have left the nations." Pastor Cipriani de Hora Loras shouted to dozens of congregants earlier in April at his Gracio Jesus Christos Church in the Rio de Janeiro area, and congregants are heard repeating his words passionately. Synagogue Sem Fronteiras, a network of Jewish communities in Brazil, have filed a complaint for incitement against de Loras with the federal police, who say they are looking into it. He's calling for a new Holocaust. On June 12th, Rabbi Adler Yaakov Schlesinger, a Hasidic rabbi, was stabbed multiple times on June 12th while he was standing in front of a bank in London. Multiple media outlets actually reported that one. On June 24th, Ariel Behar reported in the Algemeiner that Linda Sarsour told Zionists they were not welcome at a civil rights rally for Juneteenth, an event to celebrate freedom and protest ongoing bigotry and discrimination. But her group, Muslims for Abolition, openly engaged in bigotry and discrimination in promoting its Juneteenth rally in New York by advertising it as open to all, minus Copts and Zionists. Anti-racism protesters in Paris last month yelled "dirty Jews" at counter-protesters as they amassed in Paris's Place de la République. They were carrying banners accusing Israel of massacring Palestinians and shouting "dirty Jews" at the Jewish people there. Donna Rachel Edmonds and Jeremy Sharon reported on June 15th in the Times of Israel that Los Angeles has seen a huge uptick of incidents in the wake of George Floyd protests. Jews were the target of much of the chaos in LA in the city's Fairfax district, a heavily Jewish area that has been continually represented by a Jewish city councilman since 1953. And it was particularly hard hit with the kind of vandalism that has struck major cities in the wake of the George Floyd incident. The JTA.org in Los Angeles also noted that walls of a synagogue read "Free Palestine" and "F Israel." A statue of Raoul Wallenberg, the Swedish diplomat who saved thousands of Hungarian Jews from the Nazis, was smeared with anti-Semitic slogans. As well, synagogues, Jewish-owned buildings, stores, all were defaced, in several cases with anti-Semitic graffiti. The businesses were also looted. The councilman noted, quote, "The attack on our community last night was vicious and criminal." He also went on to say that as we watched the fires and looting, what didn't get covered were the anti-Semitic hate crime incidents. Under the guise of protests, some have advanced their anti-Semitic agenda. The ADL also reported that anti-Semitic incidents have hit an all-time high in 2019 in California. Vandalism numbers have rose significantly, and more than 2,100 acts of anti-Semitic hate crimes have happened nationwide, and a 56% increase in assaults, 4 fatalities in Los Angeles alone. The Jewish American community has experienced the highest level of anti-Semitic incidents in the last year since the tracking began in 1979. And for those who claim that there is some sort of Jewish privilege and their suffering is inconsequential or, God forbid, somehow justified, here's a little context for you. Less than 80 years ago, within one lifetime of us sitting here today, there was a Holocaust. Yochi and the Truth posted a poignant consideration, a poem of sorts, on Facebook back on June 17th in response to the many organizations and anti-Semitic leaders in the current race and culture wars that have continued the notion that Jews are somehow privileged and are the cause and not the recipients of much suffering. Jewish privilege is one member of your family miraculously survived the Holocaust while the entire family was gassed. Jewish privileges, the men and women that weren't starved to death in the camps, were somehow able to have children. Jewish privilege is being able to breathe while a pile of corpses is on top of you. Please remember that these experiences were only 75, 80 years ago, not nearly 2 centuries ago or long forgotten in the past. People have lived through this, are still with us and alive today to testify. Next week, we will list out the contributions to the many causes and innovations to the world that Israelis and Jews have made, at least recently, because the list is way too long to go back too far. Shavua Tov, and have a great week.